Hello, everybody. My name is Amber, and I'm honored to welcome you to the Cat Daddies Q&A discussion with the director, Mai here. We are so grateful to have all this wonderful film at the 8th annual festival. And as a dog lover myself, very unfamiliar of the world of not only cats, but cat dads, I really enjoyed learning more just watching your film. Before we begin, on behalf of the Bentonville Film Festival, I would like to take the time to acknowledge Indigenous peoples that were forced to leave their ancestral lands, including the Osage, Kaito, Quapaw nations with ties to Northwest Arkansas. We further recognize that a portion of the Trail of Tears runs through this area and that the Cherokee, Choctaw, Muskogee Creek, Chickasaw, and Seminole nations passed through what is now Arkansas during this forced removal. We acknowledge all Indigenous storytellers and residents in our community and region. Thank you. And now it's my honor and privilege to welcome Mai.
Thanks, Amber.
Thank you.
Meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So yeah, I'm just gonna go off the bat and get started with this
Sure.
Q&A. Sweet. So we often hear about the crazy cat lady, but we don't hear much about like crazy cat daddies. So I'm curious to know what led you to make this documentary.
Yeah, quite honestly, I'm really obsessed with men who love cats. It's just been, I think just in the recent years, like it's just been a thing that's just exploding on social media, almost like a movement. There's all these hashtags, as mentioned in the film. And I think that was my initial kind of spark. In addition to that, when my husband and I were just dating years ago, he was not a cat guy at all, pretty indifferent to animals in general. And one day he surprised me because a cat one day showed up on his doorstep, kept coming back. I told him to feed it, and they became really best buds, to my shock. I mean, this is something that we never thought was in him. Um, and I saw a side of him I'd never seen before, a certain kind of tenderness, maybe also just sort of like maybe as he just treated these cats like they were this cat like it was his child. Um and I find that so endearing and comforting. Going on this journey with this movie, I think it made this fascination I have, almost obsession, maybe stems from the fact that I grew up with a very stern father. Actually all the men in my family, very stoic, very stern. I never, the kind of side that I see from cat dads, that vulnerable tenderness, all those, the gentleness, the patience, all those traits I never really saw within the men in my family. So I think in some way that is why I respond so much. And then I wasn't even expecting kind of like all the events of 2020 to unfold, all the things that we were going through, all the toxic masculinity and sort of aggression, that we were seeing. So it just made me kind of want to dive even deeper into my movie and just sort of like be immersed in it like a security blanket because I think we should be sharing more images. I think we should be sharing more. I think we should make it okay that, men can be um compassionate and still show their strength, I guess. And and the response has been overwhelming, from audience members. So many people saying that they didn't know this was the movie they needed, and just kind of relating it back to kind of what's going on today and the things that we are seeing in our world and in our country.
That's awesome and incredible, honestly. And I guess a follow up to what you said, I guess, do you think cats bring out the more nurturing side of people, would you say?
Yeah, I think especially since they are kind of the size of a baby. Um yeah, I think that is so. And I feel like they have so much qualities of comforting and almost healing. There's just something special about that purr that they have that ability to calm us down. Um, and I'm just sort of, I just think that they have so many benefits for men that, people don't talk about or realize. Um, and I think there are a lot of men, and again, like part of the side benefit of making this movie was I was hoping that it would encourage more men to maybe be open to adopting a cat, because I think there's so many men like my husband, um, that maybe didn't know that they could be a cat guy. You don't know what you don't know. And so I'm hoping by putting these images out there and telling these stories, could maybe do something to open more hearts, more minds, not only to help the sort of overpopulation crisis that we're having, but also just for people to look within themselves. I think the story between David and the cop Chris is really, really key in the heart of the movie. That they were able to open up to each other like that. And it was that cat that was just the spark to that friendship. Um, and they really both benefit from each other. It's not just David. Like, I think Chris um, doesn't have very many male friends, especially within his work, that maybe he could be that authentic and open about talking about his cat. But you could see in his eyes, you could see they just light up, right, when they talk about their kitties. And there's just something about that to me that is so special. And I already knew what an endeavor it was to make a feature film, and I knew it had to be something that I would be in love with, um, for the many years that I'm going to be trying to get it out there.
I think that's really beautiful and just unique. Wow. That also leads into my next question, which actually was about David and Chris, because I found that there were a lot of comedic beats within your film, like from the beginning where like Mozart was being played with the cats. Like, I don't even think that was Mozart. That might have been Beethoven, my mistake. But even to when like David, the trucker, was with Tora and like talking about how many scarves he had in the back of his car for his cat. I just thought that was really crazy. So I was just curious, like with all these like comedic elements that are really great, why did you choose to have those being mixed in with those like I guess like poignant moments that you were just talking about with David, who was like really trying to take care of his cat Lucky in the midst of his surgery?
So that was really tricky for me, the balance between those two different, tones. Uh, because we were not expecting, I mean, we were not planning to have David's story at all. That actually came in the middle of filming. I was going after, again, sort of what you see at the beginning, more fun, more light, more humorous. Um, and then we actually, because of the pandemic, some of the subjects that we were planning to have, we lost because either we couldn't travel to them or because their heart just wasn't in it anymore, understandably. So, so David's story actually grew larger than what was originally planned. He also was a surprise because we didn't find him. He found us through one of his friends who had heard about the project, and she just thought that by including him somehow, that it could help him gain some awareness to help his situation. And in the beginning, I was like, well, I really don't know. We're already cast up. I don't have space, and then um, I don't even know how tonally this could work. It just doesn't match at all. It seems to be, but we knew that he was high on the wait list to get shelter. So, very naively, I thought that, okay, he's probably going to get into the shelter, and then that could be sort of like the happy ending to his story, um, which, as unfortunately didn't happen. But it's just sort of once we met him, we knew he had to be part of it. We just needed to make it work somehow. So just sort of um, took that leap of faith, and and always knowing that, okay, if we can't make this work, maybe we'll just take him out and it's going to be a standalone story. So that was a really tricky thing. Like, how does a person like Nathan the Cat Lady live in the same movie with David? And so we just had to be careful. And I hope we pulled it off in the editing as the movie kind of ebbs and flows into both being, more thought provoking or more, light and funny. And then, all those things that, happened in the movie, sort of some of the twists and turns that just happened in real life and just unfolding before us. It was just sort of like with the pandemic and everything and all these issues that we couldn't ignore. And we couldn't really, at the time, couldn't really film without wearing masks and things like that. It was just sort of like, I guess we could go down this direction a little bit and be a little more serious.
I will say, firstly, I thought his story was great, and it's very interesting to me that he wasn't even originally part of the plan because I thought that was so incredible to see. I guess my next question is, you just talked about the pandemic and how like that kind of did change your plans for you in terms of like making this film, and traveling was also an issue. But I guess I'm just curious to know, were there any other challenges you faced while filming, or were the main ones surrounding COVID, would you say?
I would say mostly it was mostly COVID, but I also have to say, just to be perfectly honest, and maybe this will help some other filmmakers out there, is that in the span of 1 year, that year, 2020 into 2021, I experienced both the highs and the lows, the lowest low of filmmaking, and even just my own, just my own mental health. Just crazy highs before March 2020, where everything was going smoothly, everything we were getting was great. Um, I could see the vision, and then that kind of all dying in the middle of 2020, where I could no longer see my vision. I knew that my vision was dead, honestly, and that I needed to, redirect this film. And I just was so worried about how it was going to turn out, and I really wanted to do everyone justice with the film, especially David, of course, because we wanted it to help him. And also, we didn't know when the finish line would be. And for us, it felt like life or death for David because he really needed the help. And we, one, didn't know whether he'd make it through that year. And two, we weren't sure. We wanted to get the movie out as soon as possible to help him. We needed to finish. And so there was just sort of this urgency that, of course, nobody else is feeling because everything stops, right? But I have this urgency to finish this film quickly because I need to get him help. We need to start screening the film for people. Um, and so that was emotionally very difficult. And at the same time, I'm sure other filmmakers also felt or had questions that were more kind of existential, which I definitely went through, which was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I making this cat movie? Does anybody care? At the end of this, does it even matter? And I just felt like very useless. um I turned that around by just being determined to raise money for David. So even while we weren't filming, I was stopping to just make short little videos to put out there on social media to try to help get donations for him. All of my energy just went towards him and trying to keep him going and saving his life. Um, and it really saved me in turn because it was a great distraction from everything that was going on. But just a very rough year. That was the year of the election. I mean, just all these things, just feeling terrible, right? I'm sure as a lot of people did. So I just tried to use that to just keep going because as many people trying to make a project that year. It's just like these, just the agony of trying to make the right decision. Do we keep going even though it puts people at risk, or do we wait this out? Because for a time we thought, well, maybe it's not going to last that long, and then we can continue. Do we, hit pause or not? And when we had to, we did take a pause, but we kept pushing and pushing, and finally, got to film with David at the end of the year. There were times during the year that I couldn't make it over to the East Coast. We would have a trip planned, and then quarantine rules would change, and then we couldn't make it. So some of the things you saw in the movie, like in the summertime in New York, that was actually my DP filming and doing sound and doing everything by himself, and I'm just on the phone. I couldn't even make it over there, but we just, had to keep going and get as much footage as we could. And luckily he pulled it off. But he happened to already be on the East Coast, so he just did it all one man band. And yeah, those were some of the challenges we had to make this movie. So it's just so strange because it's just like a cat movie. Yet it felt so urgent for us.
That's so true. It's interesting because you say it's a cat movie, but I feel like there's just so much that can be taken away just like from your movie itself. Because it's crazy how I feel like in a sense it's a capture of like happiness, just like a moment where you could breathe too. And it's crazy because you're like allotting that to a cat. But that's very impressive that you managed to just go through all that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I have to credit the cats. They're so innocent, and it's all about that unconditional love, and we couldn't not have David because of that he really demonstrates that cat has unconditional love for him. Um and it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting, so many people like you tell me that they're a dog lover. Um but I see no difference. It's just love is love, and it's all about love for animals, whatever that animal is. But I think that you know cats haven't gotten kind of like the credit that's due. They don't have as much exposure in the public as dogs do as pets. So I think a lot of people don't know what it's actually like to have a cat as a pet, and they don't know that cats are so different from each other. They all have unique personalities, and I know that because I have four of them. And none of them like each other, and they're all completely different, their personalities. But if you don't live in that environment, you just wouldn't know. So I really enjoyed capturing that. That was really important to us, is to have intimate moments, and to not stress out the cats. And I think that's a lot of times why they aren't seen in movies and TV as much, is because they are difficult to work with. They're horrible to direct. Total divas. But that was the cat challenge I wanted to go after. Yeah.
That's that's crazy. Just hearing cats being views, I'm like, LOL, in my head,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
But one thing you just said that really spoke to me was just like the joy of just like working with cats and giving them to have this chance of like to shine on stage just because they are hard to work with. So I guess outside of the cats themselves, or even including the cats, just what's like the best part of working on this film for you? Like, what was just the best thing?
Oh, just meeting all the guys, and of course petting lots of different kitties. But meeting all the guys, I love them all dearly. They're just, I don't know. It's like the Mark Twain quote at the beginning of the movie. That's exactly how I feel. Anytime I meet a guy who likes cats, it's like there's an instant kinship. It's an instant connection. I know I can trust this guy because I know it takes a special guy to deal with a cat. And so I know instantly, yeah, we're gonna be friends. And that's true, and that's what happened. I consider every guy my of those guys in the movie my friend. It was just so fun to hang out with them, and not only that, but to continue editing the movie and also continuing going to film festivals and meeting up with them and getting all their updates and keeping in touch is it's just been a wonderful thing and very comforting, especially during this pandemic when our kind of meetings with people are a little bit more limited than normal. It's just been a joy. And then I go to film festivals and screenings and meeting other people, just random people, and they're showing me their cat pictures and telling me about their cats, and I really love it. Honestly, I can't get enough. I've even had like the executive director of a film festival even like have me over to his house to meet his cat. Yeah, while I was in town. It's amazing. And it's just been so much fun. It's been so much fun to just sort of meet all these cat lovers and to be in a room with them. I mean, I hope no one was watching this movie virtually alone. I hope you got to see it with your significant other or your cat or something. But yeah, being in a screening with a whole bunch of people and just hearing their reaction, it actually plays quite funnier in person. And I was surprised. I didn't realize that until we started, screening it, just how funny the film was. But yeah, it's been a blast and has brought so many awesome people in my life. Those so many of the men in the film are so inspiring to me. Everyone from the TNR guy to Chris the cop and David himself. David tells me that he actually feels lucky. He feels blessed. He could be so much worse off, and he sees it all the time. He sees, so many people on the streets or in his shelter who have other, issues that, and they don't have family, and they don't have, their cat. They don't have friends, that check up on them on a regular basis. But David has all that, and he feels very lucky, and things like that he says is just I just am reminded about how remarkable he is and how resilient we can all be.
That's really incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
And strong, and just the strength that he has, that even though he is so ill and so sick, he's so strong, and things like that inspire me a lot, especially in times like now, when we have so many troubled young men and all the things that are going on. It's just yeah, definitely, meeting these men has been really a highlight of my life for sure.
Cool. So I'm going to ask two last questions now. The first question is, what's the one thing you want people who watch Cat Daddies to just take away from the film? Like, if anything was just that one thing.
Are you thinking of cat people or just non-cat people, or does it matter?
Anyone really, but if you want to address like specifically cat people, non-cat, your interpretation of the question.
I think that I just hope cat lovers enjoy it the way I do. And for the non-cat lovers, I hope I definitely hope it opens their mind. I know it seems, crazy to have for cat people to like have so many cats or to dote on them as they do, but I hope it opens minds. I've been told that by a lot of people, they're just so astonished. I had no idea that a cat could walk on a leash, or I didn't know that a cat could have that type of personality. So, and I think just in general, it's really, I hope they get the message of compassion, and that, um, yeah, just the importance of that, especially in today's world. It definitely making this movie has opened my mind, and there were things that, I mean, I think of myself as pretty savvy, pretty understanding of some of our, issues like homelessness and healthcare and all these things. But, I had no idea. I had no idea how complicated and how really, um, yeah, just all the red tape that there is involved, and I just had no idea how difficult it was to for someone like David to have that kind of life. And then I think, I was surprised by how much cats had opened these men's creativity. So many of the men, it just opened something that they didn't even know they had. Whether it's Nathan making, you know 3 new videos a day, and the truck driver, like, becoming a great photographer. I was so impressed with all of his work. Yeah, there's just like all these things that they didn't know, about themselves, that were unlocked just through their cat. So I hope everybody, yeah, I hope everyone has an animal, or is becomes open to having some kind of animal in their life.
Thank you so much. And for this last quick question, very quick, it's just what's next for you now? Like any work do you want to just like plug in for the festival real quick for everybody watching?
I'm definitely trying to get distribution for this movie, or distributing it myself, and just really trying to get it out there as widely as possible. It's looking very good, and still kind of in the middle of that. So hopefully, you can tell your friends to watch it later this year. It'll be way more available, either late this year or by next year. So that's been taking up a lot of my time, but I have been kind of asked by fans if I'll do a sequel, and I am itching to do something cat related, or maybe some kind of sequel, because there were so many men that I wanted to film with that were actually abroad, that maybe I can go back and pick that up and keep going with this somehow, or maybe it'll become, something else. But but I hope to do more cat related, films, and I just have really enjoyed it, and you know yeah, fingers crossed that I'll. But I also love travel, so I hope to combine like cats and travel, um, and maybe do something abroad with this.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for your time today, Mai, and for answering all these questions. This just been incredible. And thank you so much for allowing us to have the opportunity to see your film, Cat Daddies.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me part of the film festival. I've heard so many great things about it, so I'm truly, truly honored to be included. And thank you so much. This has been a very, very thorough Q&A.
Ooh, that